What is good, fam? We are back. We are live, Boys Bet Ball, episode 22. And man, we had a crazy, I don't know, at least I had a crazy NCAA, like college basketball weekend. Love it. Sweet 16 matchups were really good. Uh, yeah, Elite Eight matchups were really good. A little bit disappointed. We'll get into it. But my Purdue Boilermakers, they had Arizona in the first half, but Arizona was just too much. Arizona was the better team. So they outlasted my Purdue, which was my national championship pick, and for my bracket, as well as I put a future on them. But all is not lost. There still is a pathway for me to win our bracket group, which we'll talk about. But overall, solid. I mean, you got baseball starting this past week, which was really good. Rangers, they're actually playing very well right now, which I was very surprised. And yeah, and finally we're having Jacob DeGrom take the mound. I literally bet them when he was supposed to take the mound against the Phillies, but he woke up with neck soreness. But that I did first five money line, and odds changed against me. But who was it later that came in and saved the day for me? And they played really well, basically off of great pitching, and Rangers bats are alive again. I'd love to see it. But we'll get into MLB and then UFC. There was a good UFC fight this past weekend. So honestly, kind of a lot. And then we finally get back to the NBA as college basketball is kind of bubbling down until to the Final Four in the championship next Monday. But yeah, I can't say too bad. I've made a good amount of money. I had to get back a little bit. I was down pretty bad this month from college basketball. March Madness helped a lot. Some bonus bets really helped me out from Onyx odds and got back, and I'm positive for the month again. But we could probably hop into college basketball unless you have anything else to talk about, just like overview wise.
No, I was gonna say let's just jump into. We made some predictions for every game. Obviously, the Sweet 16 games were set forth. We had our projections for that, and based off those were the Elite Eight games. But let me just pull them up. So Thursday, the first game was Arizona Arkansas. Um, I feel like I had this one on, wasn't really paying attention because it seemed like Arizona kind of had it the entire game. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I bet Arizona minus with the 7.5, and yeah, it's exactly how I envisioned it. Arkansas, I mean, you could argue that they had the best player. He's going to be probably top five, top four in the draft this summer in Darius Acuff. But yeah, Arizona's just too much. Obviously, we saw that in the Elite Eight game that we'll get into. But yeah, Arkansas didn't have enough. Calipari, how he typically likes to coach his teams, is a lot of offense, not a ton of defense. And against this Arizona team, you definitely need to score deep or play defense. And they clearly didn't, because Arizona scored 109 points, and I want to say they hit the century mark with like 5 minutes left. So yeah, Calipari's team's defense is definitely not a strong suit.
Yeah, so pretty chalky there. Like you said, Darius Acuff ended the night with 28 points, and um, John Calipari, who has seen a lot of talent come into his program, whether he's at Kentucky, Memphis, or now Arkansas. He said, "I said it about Maxi. He said it about maybe Shea. He didn't coach Shea, did he? Yeah,
Yeah,
Shea
he
went to
did.
Kentucky.
Yep.
He's like, don't sleep on this guy, and he had a great tournament. So I think he's probably a lock to be a top five draft pick in next year's draft, or I guess this year's draft, upcoming draft in June. In my opinion, I feel like he's past Kingston Flemings from Houston.
Yeah.
Um, and there's talk that he might even go top three over, Caleb Wilson, dealing with injuries to end his college basketball season, and Cameron Boozer, who, well, I mean, I guess it's Cameron Boozer.
AJ.
What Darren Peterson? Yes,
I
Darren
mean,
Peterson.
some people are, yeah, Darren Peterson, AJ is in the mix for that top spot. I think I actually don't know what the odds are, but I would be very surprised if Boozer is juiced out of this world for Naismith Player of the Year. But yeah, those three are the contention for the top pick, and then the top five, yeah, rounded out with Acuff and Caleb Wilson, probably.
Yeah, and I mean, you know better than I do that college basketball is significantly different than the NBA. So I've heard concerns about Cameron Boozer in terms of athleticism and yeah, athleticism probably being the biggest one. Before Caleb Wilson got hurt, people were saying, "Hey, like Cameron Boozer's playing better in college, but Caleb kind of has the athleticism and the intangibles that translate to the NBA." So left to be seen. Obviously, we still have a few more months until the draft happens. Don't even know the draft order. That will be telling to see who goes in what position. But yeah, that's probably wraps for the Arizona Arkansas.
Yeah, I was
game.
looking at that Naismith College Player of the Year, and Cameron Boozer's at 97% right now to win it. So yeah, just like I thought.
For sure. And second game was I think you were saying game of the tournament, Texas versus Purdue.
No. I still think the game at the tournament. Well, I might take that back after what just happened. What we saw with UConn Duke. I think UConn Duke honestly beats it because there was a buzzer beater at the end. But other than UConn Duke, up until this point, it was Vandy, Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, this one was still a barn burner. Came down to a last-second tip shot by Purdue.
Yep.
So yeah, Texas really came to play. What was the line there? Like 6.5, 7.5?
Yeah, it was 6.5, 7.5. I took Purdue on the 7.5, and they had chances to pull it away, but Texas just kept on making big shot after big shot. You had Tremont, I don't know how to say his first name, Mark. He was literally playing on one leg. He twisted his ankle on a 3-point shot, and he was literally like limping the whole second half of the game, and was just like making jump shot after jump shots. Like, the guy's going to shoot a jump shot, and he still makes it. Insane. So, and that wise, like whoever was winning that game, play against a good air, like them and Michigan are the two best teams. So top 2 team in Arizona. Like, yeah, if Texas would have beat Purdue somehow, it would have been a bloodbath. Like, Arizona would have destroyed them by 30, I think.
Yeah, most definitely, but still really entertaining game. That's what people live for. March Madness games coming down the wire. Purdue was able to squeak that one out. Third game, it hurt me because I had Houston not only in my Final Four, but I had them in the championship game. I liked their coach Sampson. Their defense always comes to play. It did in this game. I believe the game started. Too. What was that?
Yeah, they were playing in the Toyota Center.
Yeah, they were playing in Houston too. Basically a home game. And their defense definitely came to play because I think 4 minutes into the game, there was 4 points, 2 points.
I don't know. I didn't watch the game in its entirety.
I know it was at least less than 6 points in like 4 or 5 minutes of game time between the two of them. So I think last week we also had Nate on. We were kind of talking about Illinois is one of the best offensive teams in the country. Houston's one of the best defensive teams in the country. And just deciding on which team was going to, do the other side of the ball to ultimately win the game. That proved to be Illinois. I believe Houston shot 30% from the field total. And Illinois, beat them outright, being underdogs convincingly by 10 points and moved on. I don't know if you have anything to add on that game.
No, and they were up more than 10 points. They were up at one point, I think, like 16 or something. Yeah, so whatever run Houston kind of had at the end was more cosmetic than anything. Yeah, Illinois asserted its dominance, and obviously now we know they're in the Final Four. But yeah, they stepped to the plate. They were the best rated offense in college basketball, but they're also pretty low as compared to these other teams in defense. That was their main Achilles heel all year. They can try to outscore anyone, much like the BYU philosophy. It's like all offense, no defense. But when they needed to play defense, they stepped up and played defense. Granted, I would say that's probably one of Houston's like bigger, Achilles heel themselves is just like getting consistent offense when it's not Kingston Flemings or Chris Anak doing a ball screen or them isoing or Emmanuel Sharp getting kicked out and hitting a three. You need a guy like Milo Suzan to kind of pick up the offense, and they weren't able to do that. And give credit to Illinois. Like Illinois can be really good at defense just because they're so big. Pause. They're the tallest team in college basketball. Their average height is 6'8", which is crazy. I don't think the NBA is like what 6'7", and they're at 6'8". So they got 2 7-footers that are twin brothers, and they got the what do they call him, Brad Lavich or something, because they're all these Eastern European guys. So they came to play, and they came to play the next game too, and I think they'll come to play against UConn. But we all know, I know who's going to win that game.
Yeah, so keeping it moving. Last game of Thursday night was Iowa, Nebraska, and I think, if my memory serves me correctly, you and Nate both picked Iowa as a dog money line.
Yep, and I caught them live. So I caught them when they were down 10 early on. I believe it was 12-2 or like 16-6. They were down 10 like within 5 minutes of the game starting. I was like, you know what? I'm still rolling with Iowa. I caught them at plus 220. And yeah, dude, I cashed that baby in. And they didn't have a single lead in the entire game until, I want to say, the last 3 minutes of the game. 2 to 3 minutes of the game. That's when they got their first lead of the game. And the crazy thing is, in that game, it was an inbounds play. I think they're like, Iowa was up, 3, I want to say, and like 2 or 3. So literally Nebraska just needed to get a stop and potentially like tie the game to extend it to overtime. And there was like 20-something seconds left. Rink Mass was in the game for some reason, so Nebraska only had 4 players on the court. And I forget who was passing the ball in, but he hit Fulgaris, who's the guy who hit the game-winning shot against Florida, wide open on the other end of the court. He gets fouled, and he makes the basket. So that, I believe, put him up 6 to basically seal the game. So, like I said, I mean, Brett McCollum, he was the better coach in that game beforehand, and that checked out throughout the game. I think Nebraska just kind of got out coached, and Iowa knows what they're good at. And sure, they weren't leading majority of the game, but they led when it mattered, and that's at the end.
Yeah, so I mean, great call by you and Nate. Not only just covering, I think it was a marginal spread, but winning outright and winning by 7 points. Transitioning to Friday, the first game of the night, you guys also called another upset, and it was looking pretty good at halftime. Number 5 St. John's versus the powerhouse, the Evil Empire, Duke. And I believe some moment in the mid-second half, St. John's was up 10 points. Mm-hmm. And I was following the game on Kalshi. I believe Duke got all the way down to like a 32% win percentage. But the Blue Devils, they came back and they got the win against St. John's, beat Coach Patino. I don't know. I know obviously you picked St. John's for an upset, but what were your thoughts in the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic story of 2 teams that somewhat have a different philosophy. Obviously, St. John's does have an inside-out game with Zubi Ejiofor, but their main game to beat Duke was to hit threes, and they were hitting threes all throughout the first half and early in the second half. But the age-old saying, you live by the 3, you die by the 3, and they couldn't buy a bucket at the end of the game. And you got to give Duke credit as well for playing good defense at the end. But St. John's was getting good looks. They weren't knocking them down, and Duke then went to the other end and pounded the paint, and yeah, they got the job done. Another scare by Duke, and yeah, they're playing a lot of these close games, and obviously, at the end of the day, you just want to win the game. But I knew that was a big cause for concern because every single one of these games, I know like the score for the TCU game doesn't really translate it, but TCU is kind of in control of that game for a lot of it, and just kind of unraveled at the end when their center got fouled out. But yeah, live by the three, die by the three. I mean, you got to give credit to Rick Pitino and this team. Very experienced team. I think one of the key, and I didn't watch the whole game, but I think one of the key things is Duke just didn't turn over the ball, and having Caleb Foster back for Duke was huge. He was out. He literally had a fracture in his foot 3 weeks ago, and he was able to play. And I think he was the difference. He scored 11 points. I want to say almost all of those points were in the second half, and they needed his guard skills in the second half to handle the pressure, and they were able to handle the pressure. I think if Duke was able to get turned over a little bit more, then this would have been St. John's games. But I still think the read was right. Duke was due for an upset, but shots can fall. But the game plan was solid, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think you also, I mean, you called the upset, but you also call at the very least St. John's first half money line, and they squeaked that one out, winning first half by 1 point.
I actually wanted to play that, but I got busy or something, and I ended up not betting it, and I got kind of upset that I didn't bet it.
Yeah, so tough for the Johnnies, but Duke moved on. Second game, Michigan versus Alabama, kind of similar to the St. John's game, maybe not as scary in the second half, but Alabama was leading by 2 points going into ending the first half. Then Michigan kind of just turned it on, ended up winning by 13. Don't know if you have any comments on that game.
Yeah, Yaxel Lungenborg is that guy, and just Michigan can do it from anywhere on the court, like inside, outside. Like Nate Oates is a heck of a coach, and just to get his team up until the Elite Eight without your best player and Aiden Holloway is a huge props to him. But yeah, it was a little bit just like they just didn't have enough. And Alabama's game plan is very similar to St. John's. It's like we play fast, we turn the ball over, we turn her over, and we shoot a bunch of threes, and we get layups and free throws. And yeah, Michigan can defend that
for sure. Third game, a Friday night, Michigan versus UConn. I watched a lot of the first half because I believe I had UConn in a parlay for just like 1.5 or 2.5 points. And they started the game, they absolutely punched Michigan State in the mouth. I believe they're up 15. You said 19?
Yeah.
Yeah, up 19 in the first half, and I thought it was going to be a runaway train, but cut it down to 8 points in the half, and then kept it super close up until like the last minute of the game. UConn, I think, was up, and they were just able to keep getting shots and got the stop they needed and pulled out the victory by 4 points, covering the 1.5 point spread.
Yeah, Michigan State's a really good team. I knew that was going to be a close game. That's why I didn't bet it, even though I did want UConn to advance. I knew it was going to be a close game, so even a minimal 2.5 spread. Yeah, I wasn't super confident in that being a blowout winner, but yeah, again, another version of why Dan Hurley is, honestly, at this point, I think he's the best coach in the tournament, especially after the next game. And do we want to go over every single individual game like this, or do we just want to highlight some games that?
I mean, at this point, we just have one last game on Friday. Then there's 4 games on Saturday, Sunday. I mean, we could just briefly touch the Iowa State Tennessee game was the last game to wrap it up, and I believe I had it was like a 3 or 4 leg parlay. It was UConn, Dodgers. MLB season, like Mike said, started up last Wednesday, technically, with Giants, Yankees in San Francisco. So got kickstarted, and the Dodgers being the super team they are, even more souped up than the last 2 years where they won the championship. I took them plus 3.5 on opening day. Was looking good because they were down 2-0. Ended up losing by 6. But this night, kind of same deal. They only won by 1 run, I believe.
Yeah,
so my last leg was in Iowa State by 3.5, and Iowa State unfortunately lost by 14. Similar story to Houston game. They just couldn't buy a bucket, and Tennessee couldn't miss. So unfortunate, but life goes on. Tennessee played really well.
Yeah, I got to give credit to Rick Barnes in Tennessee. That one, if you had Joshua Jefferson, I think could be very different. But Iowa State can be very erratic and sometimes not super consistent. They've had some pretty bad losses where they can't score the ball. They're usually pretty solid on defense. But yeah, Tennessee, when they make shots, it's hard to guard a team that has a bunch of three-point shooters that can hit shots.
For sure. Saturday, we had the 2 games, teams advancing. I think we said that Houston, the whole panel, me, you, and Nate thought Houston would advance. Obviously, Illinois advanced. They played Iowa State. I was up in the first half, but Illinois was kind of just able to put them away. Don't know if you have any thoughts on that one or just.
Yeah, I mean, it was, again, the score, it being a 12-point win for them doesn't really indicate like how close the game was. The game did kind of get out of hand the last probably 2 or 3 minutes. Just Iowa kept on missing, and then Illinois kept on hitting shot after shot and then getting fouled and stuff. But Iowa was very much in this game. I bet Iowa again also money line, and that was looking very good for majority of the game. The key with Iowa is they just need to slow the game down, less possessions, because Illinois does like to run a pretty quicker pace. And then, I mean, it is what it is. Illinois is a really tall team. You really have to keep them off of the offensive boards, and they were able to get a ton of offensive boards and then hit shots, timely 3-point shots and timely offensive rebounds. And Iowa just kind of just ran out of juice. There's only so much you can do when, your best player, Bennett Sturts, is like playing the entire game for 5 straight games. Ultimately, you just kind of run out of juice, but proud of Iowa, proud of that, Brett McCollum and his team. But yeah, I give credit to Illinois. But and honestly, I feel like, Houston's a really great team. If you have to see UConn and the teams UConn had to play in that East region, I think this will be honestly Illinois' probably first big test in the tournament. As crazy as it is to say in the up until the Final Four, because Iowa has been really good, but they also are like a lower seed and they've kind of upset several teams, and I guess their the most difficult opponent up until that point was Houston. But even Houston, everyone knows that they have their flaws. So them playing in the Final Four, honestly, I think the most well-coached team in the tournament, like UConn team, will be a really good game. And UConn doesn't have a ton of size, but they do have size. They're going to have their hands full with Terrence Reed. At center, 6'11", was he 250, 260. And he got credit to Illinois is big, but Terrence Reed is bigger. Pause.
Yeah, most definitely to your point. Obviously they were the 3 seeds, so they played number 14 Penn, beat them by 35. Then played VCU because VCU got the upset against, I believe that was UNC.
Yeah.
So an 11 seed winning that game by 21. And then, as you mentioned, Houston, toughest challenge. Then Iowa was playing somewhat of not a super high seed in Nebraska and got that upset. So, in terms of rankings and to your point, just
they probably have the easiest path so far.
Yeah, most definitely. And Illinois is, spoiler alert, Illinois is favored against the UConn Huskies by 2.5. So,
yep, I already bet UConn. So,
and then the last game of Saturday night, you kind of alluded to it earlier on in the show. Purdue had Arizona on the ropes in the first half, up by 7. I was nervous. A couple of my friends who were on the game were nervous because it seemed like Arizona was going to steamroll them, and they, I believe, were basically even money at halftime. Even being down 7 speaks to how good Arizona is, and then they kind of just turn it on, almost outscoring Purdue by double, scoring them by 22 points and winning the game by 15. I know it hurts you. You had Purdue winning the national championship. I had Arizona, so one of us was going to move on. But any big takeaways from this game?
I think the big turning point in that game was when Trey Kaufman-Renn at the very beginning of the second half, because he had 2 fouls. And they were actually playing pretty well with him on the bench in the first half for majority of the first half. But early on, I want to say it was 18 minutes left, 17 minutes left, the first 2 or 3 minutes of the game, he picks up his 3rd foul. And then he has to sit for another 5 or 6 minutes. I think that was the big pivotal point in Arizona coming back in the game, just because you take Trey Kaufman-Renn. I mean, Arizona's already a tall team as well. They have Krivas, who's 7'2", and they have Koa Pete as your 4 at a thick 6'8", 6'9". Yeah, so not having Trey Kaufman-Renn in there to kind of play a high-low, because what they did in the first half with Oscar Clough, man, I think he's low-key the MVP for Purdue in that game. I don't know how many points he had. I want to say he had close to 20 in that game, but he was eating inside, and that's no small feat to eat inside against our Oscar Clough at 14 points, but still he was team high, 4 for 8, so shooting 50% within the field, 10 rebounds, and I want to say probably 3 or 4 of those were offensive rebounds. Against the 7'2" guy, as well as a 6'8", 6'9" guy who's going to be a top 10 pick in the draft next year. That's super impressive for a guy who came from South Dakota State. So got to give him their props. And yeah, they hit a few threes early on, but they really couldn't get Fletcher Lawyer going. They couldn't really get Braden Smith. I mean, you give credit to Arizona's defense, but Purdue just missed a lot of shots at the end, and that's kind of what led to Arizona getting easy buckets in transition and inside. Purdue played really good defense first half, second half, a little bit more fast pace, a little bit more the pace that Arizona wants to play to get more possessions and to score more, and that's what happened. So I think that was the big pivotal point when Trey Kaufman-Renn got his 3rd foul early in the second half.
Yeah, most definitely. I was at a wedding, so I was kind of just following on a phone. Was nervous, but then, watching it a little bit. Yeah, I was grateful that Arizona was able to just turn it back on.
And the key, whoever beats Arizona is you want them to shoot threes. Like if you look at the comparison of shot selection, Arizona doesn't really want to shoot threes. They want to score 2 point in the paint or get free throws. And they're really good at that. Purdue went 8 for 22 for 3, just 36%. Arizona only shot 15 threes and they made 5, 33%. So I think the more you can make Arizona shoot threes, if they make them, they make them. But you'd rather have them shoot threes than getting a 75% shot in the paint. Points in the paint, they had 40 points in the paint. More than half their points in the paint. So that's the key to beating Arizona. And I mean, Arizona plays Michigan next, who I'd say they're pretty good at defending the paint. So that's going to be a really good matchup.
Yeah, and then just wrapping up the Sunday Elite 8 matches, I don't think we really need to talk about Michigan versus Tennessee. No. I know one of my friends said to take Michigan -8.5. I'm not a huge college basketball fan, but being in the Elite 8, I was like, that seems like a lot of points. And it clearly wasn't, because they won by 33 points. And it was
8.5's not a lot. I mean, it seems like a lot. Even in football, when you see a 13.5, 14.5 spread, it's that kind of seems like a lot until the other team's up by 34. And you're like, oh, that was a bargain.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, but it was over before it started. So we don't really need to touch on that one. But yeah, in your opinion, the game of the year, and I'd agree because I watched most of it. The Yukon Huskies upsetting Duke. Yukon being down as much as 19 in the first half. And I took Yukon plus 11 and a half, pretty much at even odds. And by halftime, I think it was down to like 33%. So I was stressed out. Um, didn't really think UConn would come back. And I mean, in the second half, they kind of cut the lead, but they're kind of hanging around the 12-point, um, you know, difference with Duke being up 12. And I just seemed like they were just going to go back and forth and they weren't going to ever make a push. So I sold to get my money back. But UConn just kept hanging around. And unfortunately, Caden Boozer decided to one dribble, pick it up, jump ended up getting tipped. Kudos to Mullins for understanding where he was on the court and not touching the ball until it went to the backcourt, picking it up, passing it to who's that? Their star
Alex
player,
Caravan.
Caravan passing it back to him with what, about 4 seconds?
Yeah.
Being
Yeah,
40
like
feet out, shooting
5
that thing from
4 or 5.
Yucatan
Yeah. I
and
mean, it was
bottom of the
like,
net.
yeah, dude. Like, I mean, so I think it's interesting, and I think there's something to learn from this as far as like an offensive player. Because like sometimes, like, is it the most ideal shot? Like, could he have taken another dribble or whatever? Yeah, he could have, but if taking another dribble, that means there's 2 guys probably on him. The defenders are shorter to close out to get a hand up. So sometimes those deep shots might even be a better look. And the thing is nowadays, and it's I think like it's Charles Barkley or whoever they're talking about is like kids practice these shots, like kids dream, like this is like what you do in your backyard, like shooting like a half court shot or near half court shot to like win the game, to go like win the championship or go to the final four. This is the exact same shots that you take as a kid. Uh, so yeah, obviously everyone's super surprised that he took a shot, but if you think about it, like Isaiah Evans was kind of funny. They were low key kind of roasting him because I want to say his Instagram handle is like get a hand up. And he did not get a hand up on that one. You can clip
No,
that
he did
one.
not.
And he just cashed that baby. And oh, dude, the reactions were so awesome. Like, I mean, John Shire, I feel like he always has the same reaction no matter what. Um, and then, yeah, you saw the Yukon bench and Danny Hurley. Well, he sees reaction. He's like, oh, like trap, whatever. He sees he get the deflection. He's like, oh, this could be interesting. They get it. And then he freaking shoots it, and you're like, oh! And you see what afterwards he went up to the ref and like head butted him almost.
Full little Kevin Garnett.
That wasn't like necessarily on purpose. So I actually heard an interview. I can't remember if I sent it to you or not, but he thought, because he's actually really good friends with that ref, and obviously because they play, like he refs a lot of their games or whatever, so he's very familiar with them. And he thought he was like going in for a chest bump, so that's what he was expecting, and then it just ended up being this awkward like little head touch thing he had with the ref. And it's so funny too because I mean, this is basketball at its like purest form right here. And then you have, at the end of the day, Duke choked that game. Like, ifs, ands, or buts, you can talk about this, talk about that. Like, Duke choked that game. And if you look at their last 4 losses, they were up 15 plus in all of those games. And obviously, I think John Shire is a great coach. I don't think there's really many coaches in college basketball that are better than John Shire. But it is a cause for concern and something to look at. It's like, hey, we have all this talent. We're up big. It's like, how can we like basically not like fumble the bag and allow these teams to get back in the game? And I think that just goes to the game management more on the coaches' part more so than players. Obviously, the players are the one executing and playing, but it's the coach's game plan that the players are end up following. But yeah, dude, that was just classic. That was just like pure basketball right there. And I mean, freshmen are great until they make freshman like mistakes. And ironically, it's the freshman also on UConn's team that hits the game winning shot to send them to the Final Four. This is like one of the best like one shining moments you could like have. And I think it's like near up there because I was watching live the Villanova North Carolina game in the championship where Archidiakono passes it back to Chris Jenkins for the 3 to win the championship. That was sick. I think this is like different because they were talking about it. This is different because it's like 2 heavyweight blue bloods going at it, like so much history behind them, really great coaching, like really like great players. Like on paper and stats wise and impact wise, Cameron Boozer, just independently in his like solo freshman year in Duke might be the best Duke player ever. Like from a production standpoint, like that might be a very bold take. And honestly, I'm not very high on Cameron Boozer at all. I low key think he's more of a Marvin Bagley type pro comparison than no. Like I'm legitimately like I'm like he is the best college basketball player right now, and he's going to win the Naismith player. And I think he is like when you look at it from a pure production standpoint and impact standpoint, and just like winning. Obviously, that would have been great if they won the championship. But taking that aside, I think he might be like one of the best Duke players of all time in a single season at Duke. But pro is a totally different conversation. Like I said, I think he's more of a Marvin Bagley comparison than compared to like his own dad as an NBA player, just because of the way the NBA has changed.
For sure, makes sense. So, yeah, I was elated. Like I said, we're in like a 7-man tournament challenge bracket, and Nate actually, he had a pretty similar bracket to me. The only difference, I mean, we both had Arizona winning it, and the only way I could possibly win the tournament challenge was if UConn upset Duke. So you can imagine I was pretty elated by that turnover and 40-point shot by Mullins. But yeah, I think it has come down to both me and Mike for the tournament challenge for the entire pool. My path to victory is I just need Arizona to get to the Natty. Easier said than done because people are comparing this Arizona and Michigan game to Rams versus Seahawks NFC Championship last season, where this is the real Super Bowl. So whoever wins this, people are pretty convinced they are going to win it all, just like that game. But Michael needs UConn and Michigan to both make the national championship. So you guys can decide. The stats are showing I have like a 72% chance and Mike has a 28% chance. So let's be seen on Saturday how it all works out.
Yeah, and Michigan is slight favorites. Very slight. I want to say it's pretty much a pick 'em at this point.
Yep, Michigan by 1.5. So I don't know if you want to save the predictions for Saturday and eventually Monday for the end, or you want to go into it now?
We just go to it now. So yeah, I think UConn over Illinois. Now, obviously, I have a vested interest in it, but I think Dan Hurley's just a better coach. I will say there are paths for Illinois to win, and that is score a lot of points and use their height advantage against UConn. Because, Queen Wagler has been amazing. He needs to keep being amazing. I think the big X factor for their team is Andrei Stojakovic, which ironically, he's the son of Peja Stojakovic, Mavs champion 2011, legendary Sacramento King. But he honestly kind of sucks at shooting. Like he's not the 3-point shooter, an ounce of the 3-point shooter that his dad is. But he's an elite driver and slasher to the basket, and that's his game. And he has good frame as well. He's 6'6", so their whole starting lineup is 6'5 plus, 6'6 plus for Illinois. So they need to use their size to their advantage and really get Wagler going as well as Stojakovic going. I think that's their big keys. And then really making sure Terrence Reed on UConn, who's probably going to be one of their big vocal points in the offense and has been this past several games, actually throughout the tournament. Because I don't think they can guard him one-on-one. Like, I don't care if your guy is 7'1", Ivisic, either the Ivisic brothers, like they're not guarding Terrence Reed one-on-one, like either one of them. So I think they're going to have to double him at some capacity. It'll be interesting to see if they do an immediate double team or do like a delayed double team or only double him part of the time, because you have a lot of shooters on UConn's end to knock down shots. So that'll be Illinois' key to the game. UConn's key to the game is feed Terrence Reed and have that be your primary offense, and then let your seasoned guys, your Alex Carabans, your Solo Balls, your Silas Demerys, your experienced guys to make plays against Illinois and play good defense. What UConn really built their brand of basketball on is toughness and defense, and I think they're going to have the edge over Illinois, who's honestly, sure, they might be a bunch of Eastern European guys, but Brad Underwood isn't really known for coaching a really tough team like Dan Hurley is. So that's my prediction on that game. And then the Michigan-Arizona game, I think I agree. This is going to be basically the national championship. But even if UConn wins, I think it can be a really good game. This one's a tough one. I mean, I keep it as a coin flip as well. Maybe I'm just disrespecting Tommy Lloyd. I think he's a really good coach, but I think Dusty May is a very good coach as well. I give him the slightest edge over Tommy Lloyd. I do think they're pretty even as far as a coaching standpoint. Michigan, I'd lean Michigan just because they have the more experienced players. And at the end of the day, you saw it with Duke, like freshmen make freshman mistakes. Like that's just how it is. There's a reason why a guy like Yaxel Lundenborg, he's played like hundreds of games at a very high level versus these other guys. Like the most important game they probably played so far was, not including college, was like a state championship game or like an EYBL game. And that doesn't really compare. So I give the nudge to Michigan and their experience and their depth. I think Arizona, don't get me wrong, is really deep as well. With I think they're going to have trouble with Awaka, especially if they can get Mara and who's their other guy, the other starting forward. I forget his name. He's going to be a first-round draft pick as well. In foul trouble, maybe. But I like Michigan's depth. The only thing they're going to lose is they don't have EJ Little. He tore, I think, his ACL or something a few months ago. So he was a key contributor off the bench. So it's going to be rough not having him. But Michigan easily plays like 8-9 deep. So I give the edge to Michigan. And the big X factor for Arizona is getting Michigan's bigs in foul trouble and their guard play. If Braden Burries and, what's his name, Jaden Bradley can get going, especially Jaden. He's the one experienced guy on that Arizona squad. If he can kind of take it home, then I think they'll have the edge. It'll be interesting because both of these teams are so evenly matched in so many different areas. And even pace-wise, like both teams can play it fast, both teams can play it slow. I think in the end, Michigan will really force Arizona to shoot a bunch of jump shots and a bunch of threes from the perimeter. And that could be troubling for Arizona if they're not hitting those threes because they have the size to match inside.
Most definitely. Yeah, I have UConn in the first game, and yeah, like you said, it's a pick 'em, and I'm gonna go with the team that's gonna help me to win the pool. So I'm hoping Arizona was able to beat Michigan. But yeah, I think it's gonna be an awesome game.
Sorry, General Conference. We're gonna be watching that.
Well, we don't have any more Saturday evening session anymore.
Oh, that's right.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess we both talked about it, assuming that either UConn wins and either Michigan or Arizona wins, you're taking the winner of the second game, right, to win it all.
Yeah, I mean, I think Michigan. Yeah, winner either Michigan or Arizona. Yeah, as much as I love Dan Hurley, I think the other teams just have too much. But I will say, like, I will give against any team, I think UConn with Dan Hurley does have the coaching advantage, though.
For sure, I'd agree. Yeah, you want to quickly touch on the UFC fight this weekend?
Yeah, UFC, you didn't watch it, but Spencer was stuck at a wedding. But we had fight night, which typically fight nights, I mean, those are honestly good to see, like, up-and-coming fighters for whenever main cards happen, and they ended up being in the prelims or eventually the main card once they're a top-tier fighter. I went one-on-one. I took some guy named Abdul Maher or something, and he ended up disappointing me, and he got knocked out. He wasn't that much. He was a little bit of a favorite, like minus 130, but this like 6'6" Georgian guy was the real deal and ended up putting him on his back. But the real fight that everyone was looking forward to and everyone was betting was the Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer fight. And this was kind of make or break it for Izzy, because losing three straight. Granted, they were 3 straight to remind me. I know he lost to Duplessis.
Yeah, Driscus, Duplessis, Imaev, and one other guy.
2 of them were champions.
Oh, Sean Brady.
Yeah,
I believe. No. He didn't fight Sean Brady.
No, not Sean Brady.
Let me just look it up. But yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah, I have it right here. Yeah, so Imavov was his last one. Duplessis before that, and then Strickland after that, or before that. And then he actually won against Alex Pereira in 2023. Which was actually crazy. That was a title fight as well. But 3 straight losses. This was kind of his like, and he's not. This isn't even like a main UFC event. It's fight night, but because he's on it, it makes it a little bit more interesting to watch. But this was kind of a make it break it fight. And Joe Pyfer, I mean, you got to give him some credit. He's kind of an up and coming fighter. Adesanya is 35, 36. Excuse me. Pyfer is 28, 29. So definitely Joe has the advantage as far as youth, and most likely probably cardio as well. And the thing is, Adesanya, from all those fights except for Duplessis, Strickland was by decision, but he's gotten TKO'd or subbed the past 2 fights. So, this was kind of a make it break it fight for him. I went with Joe mainly because I feel like the public was very much on Izzy, and Izzy hasn't fought in a long time, so you could give him the props of like, all right, he's really preparing for his fight. This is like kind of his like do or die fight, back against the wall. I saw like Joe, the past couple people he's fought, and I mean, they're no scrubs. I mean, he's at a 16-3 record now. He fought Magomedov, Gastelum, Perrialt as well, and he can do it. He can do both. He can do fight boxing. He can also grapple a little bit. You actually saw a little bit more boxing in this fight against Izzy, but he had some takedowns and he could do a little bit of damage on the ground. And Izzy is very much a boxer, more so than a grappler type. So because of that, and then also the situation, don't get me wrong, I think Izzy is awesome. I think everyone does love Izzy for how iconic he is and all the big fights that he won. He freaking beat Alex Pereira. That's crazy. But him just being old and being beaten so many times in the manner he got beaten has not been good. I didn't necessarily think he would get knocked out like this, especially in the way that he did. But Joe Pyfer, I think, clearly asserted that. I mean, this fight could have gone either way, in my honest opinion. And I just thought Joe Pyfer at the plus money price was getting slept on a little bit, just because he was fighting a guy with a brand as much as Izzy, Adesanya. So yeah, I think it could have gone either way. Izzy just kind of like lost his whole fight plan, and I'm sure his corner was probably not very happy of what he did during the fight. He put himself in vulnerable positions, and Joe took advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, I wasn't able to watch this fight, but I did watch his last three losses. Um, and yeah, the Strickland one, he kind of just got outclassed. It's pretty embarrassing, I believe. Even back then, I think going into the fight, Strickland was like a plus 800 and shocked the world. Just
That's wild.
yeah, just completely outclassed him. Because I remember just joking around with, like, my friends saying like, "Oh, what if we just took Strickland?" Like, yeah, no way. Because I mean, look at Adesanya's record. He's 24-6, and he lost 4 straight fights. And then the fight before his 4-fight losing streak, he fought Pereira in a rematch, beat him. So the fight before that, he lost. So before he fought Pereira in the UFC for the first time, he was 24-1. Like, Adesanya is a legend.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, other than the Strickland fight, the last 3 losses, he's looked good until he doesn't, until he kind of just forgets his game plan. I feel like in that title fight against Duplessis, I felt like he was beating him, or it was pretty close. And then he kind of just turned his back, and Strickland just clocked him. He hit the ground, jumped on his back, and submitted him. It's kind of similar with the Imaya fight, and then I didn't watch this fight, but it seemed like, yeah, he just took him to the ground and tried to choke him. Didn't work, so he just started wailing on him, and Adesanya wasn't able to, defend himself enough for the referee to let the fight keep going.
Yeah, I think Izzy won the first round in my opinion. Like he did what he did. Pfeiffer, he actually did have really good takedown defense, which I think was Joe Pfeiffer's one of his main ways, one of his only ways, honestly, of winning against Adesanya. Because I think if it was a straight up boxing match, Izzy would piece him up with his reach and his experience, and that's his fighting style. So Joe Pfeiffer, I knew had to try to get some takedowns, get him on the ground for a little bit to get those points. So I think Izzy won the first round, and then Izzy in the beginning of the second round hit Pfeiffer with a couple combos. But Joe was a champ and took it like a champ and got him down a couple times, and yeah, ended up getting on his back, and Izzy just took enough. And I think Joe got some good hits when he was grappling with him too. Got some good elbows in, and then yeah, I think after he kind of got hit a little bit with those elbows and roughened up a little bit, Izzy just tried to like box his way out of it and put himself in vulnerable position. And then, yeah, that's how the fight ended.
Yeah, and then based off of the post-fight interview, it seems like Adesanya has no plans on hanging him up anytime soon, even though he's 36 on a 4-fight losing streak. Seems like he wants to go down the Tony Ferguson path, where he just goes on like a 7-game or a 7-fight, keep saying game, losing streak, and then eventually gets cut by the UFC. I don't know if the UFC will ever cut him just because how big of a name he is, but left to be seen if he has any more wins left in him. I don't know who you really put him against.
I would love to see him in, even though it is Charles, and I don't know if Charles, a BMF fight would be good, in my opinion. But if it's against Charles,
the weight classes are just.
Yeah, but I think, if they eventually change the BMF fight where they do like one per class, I think that would be a great idea for him to be a part of.
I've heard people saying Ian Machado Gary, but I feel like Ian Machado Gary is at least top 5, if not a top 3 fighter in.
You have to get him fighting someone around his age, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, so I don't really know where they go from here, but unfortunately, another loss by Adesanya. Starting off as an underdog, people buying him to a favorite, and ultimately losing. So, want to move into NBA and finish with quick MLB blurb.
Yeah. I mean, we probably don't have to go through the standings update. I was talking with Spencer yesterday, and I think he's beating me by a cool like 30 games or something. So it's pretty much wraps at this point, I would say.
Yeah, I updated it. And I think it's what is this 48.
48 now?
So
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
The one that really killed me, and to be fair, he had really good picks on the losers. I think I had really good picks on the winners. The one that killed me, though, was the Mavs. I picked the Mavs wins, and I believe they're only at like 24 wins and 50 something losses. So that was a bad pick, as well as that was my worst pick, as well as the Miami Heat losses and the Suns losses didn't help me. And I think his other picks, I had some really good picks in there, but my bad picks hurt me a lot more than his bad picks. So we're gonna have I'm gonna have to buy a flight for him, get some tickets to Lakers Mavs game.
looking forward to that. But yeah, I don't know if you wanted me to discuss those bad beats I had recently.
Yeah, like because Spencer had some pretty bad beats in the NBA the past week or so. I mean,
Yeah,
we
I
could
believe it
talk
was
about the Rockets.
yeah, I
Rockets
believe it was
rule.
last week. Um, I believe the Rockets open up at like a -2.5 against the Timberwolves. Um, Anthony Edwards was still out with his, I believe, abdominal strain. So, and I believe was Houston. No, Houston wasn't home. Minnesota was home. That's why it was a
Minnesota was home.
slight um, favorite with the Houston Rockets. And Houston was kind of down most of the game. I kind of bought a little bit. I think I even got their spread with like a weighted average, just buying it a few times at about like 33%. It seemed like it was pretty much cooked towards the end. I think Minnesota was up 10 points with a couple minutes left. And I believe Houston ended the game on like a 15-2 run to take the game into overtime. Alfred Sengun had an incredible block to stop, I believe, Julius Randle from getting a game-winning shot. So yeah, overtime starts. Have the option to cash out and make a little bit of money, but I'm like, no, it's overtime. Like Houston has a better team out there. I think the Timberwolves obviously didn't have Anthony Edwards, and I believe Rudy Gobert either fouled out in regulation or really early into overtime. And Houston went up, what was it, a 13-0 run to start overtime. And I was like, yeah, we got it. I think they were offering me like a 98, but I stopped watching Kaushi's odds because I thought it was in the bag until it wasn't. And Minnesota proceeded to go on a 15-0 run to end overtime. And they tweeted it out. It was the biggest overtime deficit overcame in NBA history.
Yeah.
And Minnesota won. And the post game by Ime, it seemed like Ime saw a ghost. Like he said this was the worst loss all season. And All-Star game, Kevin Durant's burner got leaked for like the 100th time, and vibes are at an all-time low. I said it before that before the Lakers turned it around, that I felt like the Rockets were the one team I was most confident in the Lakers beating. I don't see Houston getting out of the first round. I don't care who they play, whether it's the Lakers, the Timberwolves, or the Nuggets. They are not making it out of the first round. And I don't know where you go. You gave Kevin Durant an extension. I know you're going to be having Fred VanVleet coming back, but it just seems like Kevin Durant's an amazing player, but just a cancer on every team he goes to.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it. I can't really. I think you can zoom in a little bit on this. This was it.
Yeah, you can see right there,
Houston was up
93-84 with 3 minutes to go, up by 9. And then what's that, a 11-2 run to end the fourth quarter? They go
no, the
up.
15. Oh yeah, 11-2 run to end the fourth quarter, tied, and then in overtime they go on a 13-0 run. with 2:46
Basically about the
left.
same amount of time.
Yep.
Yeah, like 2 minutes,
2:46
50
left.
seconds.
Minnesota goes on a 15-0 run to win the game by 2. That's a bad beat if I ever knew. Oh,
Yeah.
and then the Lakers one is pretty bad too.
I actually played Lakers. I mean, Pacers plus like 24.5. So I actually didn't lose that one. But
okay, but yeah, this one is pretty bad. It's a whole thing, but it's essentially, Lakers weren't going to cover, and then
in the third quarter.
Scored. They were something like that. It's one of these where it's like
10 minutes left. The Lakers are up by 19. But then all of a sudden, in a blink of an eye, the haram starts. And then you look up, and Jay Huff is soaring like Superman, and the Pacers are now covering. And then all of a sudden, with 20 seconds left, you're dead. You're deader than my dog, Moke.
The Lakers are only up 8 right here. They don't have to score the basketball.
Unless we get some crazy
and then LaRavia
shit
decides to dunk the ball.
So the Lakers are now covering. And, of course, Obi Toppin gets the roll of his fucking life. And the Pacers cover 8.5.
Oh, man, that one is a bad beat, if anyone played.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a Laker fan long enough to know that we really just don't cover spreads. So there are obviously occasions, like I think we played the Wizards in Washington this season when we blew them out by 30, but you have these big spreads. Lakers don't know how to close games. They really just deep down hate playing defense, so the teams will just stick around. So yeah, that was brutal. And then last night was just an unfortunate one. I don't know, Mike had it in our notes that just how crazy spreads have gotten towards the end of the season with these teams motivated as possible to tank. One of my legs was an alt line for the Suns Grizzlies game. And I believe the original line was maybe 16.5, 15.5. I teased it all up to 21.5. So all the Grizzlies needed to do was not lose by 22 or more points. It was a 3-point game going into the fourth quarter. And then the Suns proceeded to outscore them 40-16 in the fourth quarter. And they lost by like 27.
It's crazy, these spreads, because literally most of these, if you're playing like a bottom, I'd say even bottom like 10 team in the league, like the spreads are most likely like double digit at the very least. And of course, if you get like an Oklahoma City or a Spurs or a Knicks playing one of these teams, it's like 16, 17. At times I've seen like 21.5. These spreads are ridiculous because I sent a screenshot to Spencer, and it was literally like who the lineup was for the Grizzlies. And it's like 75% of these players are G League players. And literally the top scorer for them didn't even have a profile picture.
Yeah. And like I texted you, you know, if they got blown out in like the first half or even the third quarter, so be it. But you play a team so well, being down by 3, then proceed to, you know, lose a quarter by 24 points, like the fourth quarter of all quarters. Kind of just inexcusable, but what are you going to do?
It happens. I've had my share of bad beats, my worst one being the freaking Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears. Very end of the season. It's where I stopped live hedging my bets. I lost $300, and my unit sizes aren't extremely big right now, so that was like a third of my bankroll. $300 and off of one stupid play where it's like you just have to. Well, there's a number of things that happened, but I won't get into it. So it happens. Odds are never 0. I don't know.
Ain't that the truth?
maybe we can do like save MVP for next week. Like I said, I haven't really been watching a ton of NBA, but Luka and Wemby have boosted their odds as far as going into winning the MVP. But Shea does have is a huge favorite in that market, so it's most likely going to be him unless something crazy happens. But MLB, we had the opening week last week. Some big surprises so far. The Nationals being 3-1, I think right now. Obviously, they haven't played a ton of games, but they played against, who was their opening series? It was against...
Wasn't it the Padres?
Padres. Yeah, and the Padres are always pretty good, you know. Yeah, against the Padres, and then them going 2-1 in that series, I believe, and then them starting their series with the Phillies, and the Phillies are really good. I mean, the Phillies are always really good. Pitching wise is obviously a little bit of a concern after their games. The series against the Rangers, which the Rangers actually won their opening series 2-1 against the Phillies. Ironically, Adolis Garcia was picked up by the Phillies on a 1-year deal, so we got to play him again and knew exactly how to pitch against him. But yeah, I one of my good bets I thought for yesterday was Phillies -1.5, because it's like, hey, I mean, I like to believe the Rangers actually are pretty good this season and have a good shot at being good this season. So I think it was more so the Rangers actually being pretty good, more so than the Phillies being bad. But the Nats come in and totally destroy the Phillies. I believe by the fourth inning, the start of the fourth inning, it was like 7-0, and they ended up winning the game 13 to 2, I believe. Yeah, 13-2. So that bet busted me. But the Nationals, you know, typically a team that's like not very good. I honestly don't even know that many players on the Nationals. All I know is we got Mackenzie Gore from the Nationals, who's been solid in his first start this year. But that was a big surprise. And also just the Phillies just being really bad. I mean, I don't know what it is. That was a big surprise for both those teams. And I'd say another big surprise, granted it was opening series, but the Angels, you know, they were top of the AL West for the first time like ever, being like 2-1 or 2-2. And then obviously they're down now because the Rangers are top of the AL West right now. But yeah, those were some super way too early surprises to see. Cal Raleigh, I mean, he got pulled from the starting lineup, I believe, yesterday or today, because he's just continuing his stinker streak from the World Baseball Classic, which is really interesting, being he led the league in home runs last year, right?
Yep. Yeah, no, I think he might have had a walk-off hit, pinch hitting yesterday, because I think he was benched yesterday.
Yeah.
Struck out with the bases loaded in his first at-bat. They left him in there. Ended up getting the walk-off hit, but I believe he's at 11 strikeouts in 5 games, which is not what you're looking for the runner-up for the MVP. Things that stood out to me, as you mentioned, the Angels started off the season 2-0. They're 2-3 now, so they've lost 3 straight. But it was their first time starting the season 2-0 since, I believe, 2007. So, yeah, maybe they're reverting back to the mean, but it'll be interesting. I know they picked up a lot of reclamation projects, players that were previously good and kind of have struggled, and hoping to bring them back to their former glory. Dodgers unfortunately had their first loss yesterday, kind of just a tough game. Cleveland Guardians pitcher went 6 scoreless, but if you look at our division, every other team is 1-3, so it might just be a runaway wagon. And yeah, as you mentioned, the Phillies kind of just having a playoff hangover, starting off the season 1-3. Hopefully they're able to just turn it around, because they currently have a 15-run a negative 15 run differential. And yeah, they're probably one of the teams other than the Blue Jays that played the Dodgers the best during the playoffs. So hopefully they're able to figure it out. Oh, and then one last thing, opening day, another close to home pick that unfortunately went wrong. Paul Skeens, if not the first, the second best pitcher in all of baseball, goes up against the Mets. You think, first year slightly above 2 ERA, last year slightly below 2 ERA, and he allows 5 runs in 2/3 of an inning and gets pulled. So I don't know if Livy Dunn being on the new Baywatch show is affecting him or what, but his margin to have a sub 2 ERA has gotten significantly smaller due to his current, I believe, 63.5 ERA. So look for him to bounce back in his next start.
Yeah, this is Paul. It's Paul Skeens, and after him getting pulled first inning. Rough week for Paul Skeens. With that. Yeah. Gets pulled with 2 outs in the inning, not even the full first inning. What a tough time it is to be a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. But yeah, I mean, the Rangers look good so far. The bats are back. That was one of their biggest concerns. Like, they've had pretty good pitching the past, especially last season. And then definitely this season, if everyone can stay healthy. But the biggest concern was just hitting, They could score a lot whenever they won the World Series in 2023. But ever since then, they just haven't been able to score any runs. So having their bats being woken up, and I think Marcus Semien was awesome, Golden Glover, second baseman, ended up sending him to actually the Mets for Brandon Nimmo. And it's tough to see Marcus Semien leave because he was such a great player. It's so important to that championship team. But a little offense or defense for offense trade. And yeah, Brandon Nimmo has been batting pretty well recently. So hopefully everything keeps playing out how it is. And I love the youth and the young players that we see from the Rangers, Wyatt Langford being in there. Hopefully Evan Carter can kind of pick it up a little bit. Having Josh Young back from injury from last year is solid. And Rangers defense is really good. And that's something that their pitching can rely on as well. That's one thing they really talked about when Mackenzie Core was pitching. It's like, hey, you actually have a good defense to back you up, so you can focus on throwing strikes. You don't have the Nats defense behind you, but I mean, maybe that's a different story this season without how the Nats are playing recently. But I think it's still too early to say for definite. But a good start to the season nonetheless. Yeah, it'll be interesting. As long as the Rangers make the playoffs, honestly, I'm happy. I low-key think that making the playoffs in the MLB is actually really hard. Because they don't take they take a lot less teams than any other pro sports.
There's just so many games, and if you go 90 and 72 in the playoff in the regular season,
it's like
that gets you into the playoffs. But the margins, in September, just get so tight. Yeah, like I said, 90 and 72, which is what is that as a percentage? 90 divided by 162, like a 55% win percentage, probably get you into the playoffs. But it just gets razor thin. I mean, we saw last year the Mets with the second biggest payroll in baseball, last game of the season, don't make the playoffs. So, yeah, obviously a lot of overreactions. Paul Skeens, I don't imagine, is going to allow 5 runs in less than an inning. But, yeah, we'll keep you guys updated. That probably wraps up our show for the week.
Yeah. So, yeah. Let's make some more money this week. We got MLB going on full force. Final Four on Saturday, and then championship game on Monday. And yeah, we only have a couple weeks left of the NBA regular season, which honestly, I think this regular season, because typically at the end of the NBA regular season, there might be a little bit of a push. Some games might be a little bit interesting based off of seeding and teams fighting for seeding. But if you look at like the Eastern Conference, like essentially these bottom teams are just like fighting to like not maybe to get home court advantage for the play-in. Western Conference, same thing. Like you have, it's just because the bottom of the league is so bad, where at 2 weeks left in the season, you still have like you already have play-ins locked in playoffs.
Yeah, teams 11 through 15 in both conferences are eliminated. So the play-in is essentially set for the Western Conference, barring a Rockets collapse and the Suns, winning at almost every single game. Eastern Conference, you may have Philly and Atlanta switching out of the play-in versus the playoffs, but
Atlanta's been on a
yeah.
heater.
When the season wraps up, we'll give our predictions for, first round matchups, or I guess play-in first, then first round matchups. But watch out for the Hornets.
Yeah,
and rookie of the year, Con Knipple.
He is going to win rookie of the year. Like, I'm glad I got out of my Cooper Flag. I was kind of high on Cooper Flag for a minute, and then I realized that wasn't like factual at all. That was just me being emotional and like wanting him to win because of the Mavs. So I exited that position pretty quickly.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next week.
All right. Catch y'all later. Let's make some money.